Good evening, I'm Camelia and this is KiniNews. The Cabinet has decided that there is no need to create guidelines for Muslims attending non-Muslim events. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim confirmed this when met by reporters today. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim confirmed the Cabinet has scrapped the proposed guidelines for Muslims participating in events at non-Muslim places of worship. When asked about the matter today, this was what he said.
Saya berpendapat tidak perlu kerana orang Islam tahu garis dia. Dia datang, macam saya datang hari ini, saya bukan masuk ke upacara agama. Gobin dia sering ke masjid di kawasan dia, tapi tidak ke upacara agama. Jadi kita biasa. Jadi jangan persulitkan, jangan menimbulkan kerisauan dalam masyarakat. Ini saya nak tegaskan keputusan Muktamad Jemaah Menteri pagi tadi.
While Islam is the official religion of the Federation, Anwar also reminded all quarters that Malaysia is a multi-ethnic and multi-religious country. As such, he emphasized the need for the nation's administration to look into every community's needs and aspirations. He said what is important is for Muslims to safeguard their faith, as there are rules we cannot breach. But when it comes to mingling around with other communities, there has never been a problem. Anwar added that he would present the Cabinet's decision on the guidelines to Deputy Yang di-Pertuan Agong Sultan Nazrin Shah soon. Earlier, two ministers had stated the Cabinet agreed that Jakim could advise Muslims on the importance of preserving their faith on such matters. However, they said the advice cannot be constituted as an official policy. The government has stressed that any policy decision must be made in the interest of national unity and get Cabinet approval first. This came following their discussion over the proposed guidelines for Muslims attending non-Muslim events. In a joint statement, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs, Mokhtar, and National Unity Minister Dagang acknowledged the matter has raised confusion among Malaysians. As such, they said the Cabinet had agreed that the Islamic Development Department could only advise Muslims on the importance of preserving their faith on such matters. However, they added that the advice cannot be construed as a policy. They said at the same time the National Unity Ministry will also enhance the implementation of harmony dialogue to strengthen harmony and interaction among multi-religious Malaysia. The ministers added that Malaysia is a country rich in diversity, which shines as an example of unity and harmony to the world, and the government understands that national stability relies upon the people living in harmony. Earlier, Sinchu Daily had quoted a source as saying the Cabinet had decided to scrap the proposed guidelines. The guidelines, which were announced by Naim, had courted backlash from many quarters, including government allies such as MIC, MCA and Sarawak United People's Party. The government had received backlash over the proposed guidelines, which was announced by Naim. This included from Rafidah Aziz. Former Minister Rafidah Aziz has stressed that the faith of Muslims is neither fragile nor rooted in ignorance. This was in response to the debate concerning the proposed guidelines for Muslims. Rafidah reportedly said that of late there is a sudden fervor among some to defend and to fight for one's religion, disregarding behavior that is clearly incongruous with what the faith demands and expects from its followers. She said at the same time there are attempts to impose rules on how Muslims should conduct themselves when interacting with others in our diverse, multiracial society. Rafidah added that such social policing is entirely unacceptable. She pointed out that for centuries we have lived and intermingled harmoniously. She said Muslims are well aware of the do's and don'ts of their religion and there is no need for external dictates on our behavior. Instead, she suggested that those in charge focus on motivating Muslims in Malaysia, particularly the youth, to excel and compete successful with their peers at all levels, domestic, regional and global, especially in areas of knowledge and competence. Yesterday, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim had said the Cabinet would discuss the proposed guidelines at its weekly meeting today. Before we move on, if you'd like access to news like this and more, scan the QR code on the screen and subscribe to Malaysia Kini. Back to the guidelines, UMNO had also commented on the issue earlier today, calling on all quarters not to politicize it and to leave it to the relevant authorities. UMNO has urged all quarters, including BN component parties, to stop the polemics and competition with each other in making statements over the proposed interfaith guidelines for Muslims. UMNO Secretary General Ashraf Wajdi Dusuki said his advice to all political party leaders, including DAP, MCA and Gerakan, is to leave religious matters like this to the relevant authorities to be discussed in an academic and informed manner. Ashraf said the guidelines are important for Muslims as a fundamental framework that serves as a guide to provide clarity on certain limitations in any religious celebrations and rituals. This is to ensure they do not compromise the Aqidah, which is the core of one's belief. For example, he said there is no issue in attending religious celebrations as a manifestation of interfaith harmony, which has long been practiced. However, he said there should be clear boundaries regarding participation in certain religious rituals. He added that the guidelines should also be seen as a positive initiative for non-Muslims, helping them to understand and respect the sensitivities of Muslims regarding certain religious rituals that could affect their faith. He said these guidelines are not legal rules or regulations but merely a guide and a source of beneficial knowledge for everyone to understand the boundaries and limits when participating in religious ceremonies and worship of other faiths. Therefore, Ashraf said there is no need to continue politicizing this issue, as every Malaysian must uphold mutual respect and tolerance in practicing their respective religions and cultures. Najib Abdul Razak has filed an affidavit objecting to the government's bid for a gag order over his judicial review on the alleged royal addendum. Former Premier Najib Abdul Razak has objected to the government's application for a gag order over his judicial review to implement an alleged royal addendum allowing him to serve house arrest. Najib's legal team reportedly filed his affidavit 2 days ago to object to a bid by the government's representatives from the Attorney General's chambers. In the affidavit cited by Malaysia Kini, Najib pointed out that there is no immediate risk to fair trial or Malaysia's national security if the case is reported for public dissemination and discussion. Najib also contended that the publicity or critical and informed discussion of a case cannot automatically amount to serious prejudice to a legal proceeding. He pointed out that the AGC can always initiate criminal or civil proceedings against anyone making seditious or libelous statements against the royal institution. Najib also contended that his judicial review is meant to preserve the royal institution and any royal decree. Najib also rubbished the AGC's claim that public discussion of the matter could prejudice the royal institution, noting that the AGC and even the palace issued media statements during the course of the case previously. The government had filed the gag order application on January 20th. Malaysian ambassador to the US Nazri Aziz has confirmed his permanent return from Washington this month. However, he denied claims that he had been recalled. Malaysian ambassador to the United States Nazri Aziz has confirmed his permanent return to Malaysia from Washington this month. However, he denied that he was being recalled before the end of his tenure. Speaking to Malaysia Kini, he said there was no such thing as being recalled and that his contract has expired. Nazri said that unlike career diplomats, he was a politician who was appointed ambassador. He explained that he signed a 2-year contract with the Foreign Ministry and his contract expires on February 8th. He said that as a politically appointed ambassador, he was granted an A2 visa, which is not like the usual 10-year visa. Nazri added that his visa is only valid for 2 years and it will expire on February 21st, so he is leaving the US on February 14th. Earlier today, online portal Malaysia Now quoted veteran diplomat Dennis Ignatius as calling on the government to recall Nazri. This was after Nazri was photographed holding a pro-Donald Trump sign while attending a victory rally for the US president last month. Ignatius, who last served as the Malaysian ambassador to Canada, reportedly described Nazri as shameful and unprofessional. That is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to Kinitv.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook for the latest news updates. I'm Camelia. Thanks for watching.